I've been asked a few times to make some list of good 4 stars, but I've never bothered with it. I find top 10 lists a bit boring. Even with the simplest things, there's so much more nuance than what can be captured. I feel this way about ratings in general, I guess. I don't see how a signed letter grade in high school, a tier list or a 15.6 out of a random review score adds anything of value. That's why I've never made a tier list or a top 10 for 4 stars, even though I've been asked for it a bunch. There are a bunch of other top 10 best 4 star videos though, and it is a bit weird for the 4 star guy to not have one, so I decided fuck it, I'll make one. Instantly I ran into a problem, and like a political pundit dodging basic questions, I felt the need to ask, what do you mean by best? Best for what purpose? Best for new players, best for old players, best for 4 star only players, best boobs? Utage Humus Totter. I'd mention other 4 stars, but they couldn't withstand the pressure of Utage's massive tits. Okay, most important question has been answered. As for those other 3, they are all valid but different categories. For new players, I don't see a point in focusing on rarity too much, since you basically work with what you have. You just want a general squad that covers basic needs. Thing that hits air, thing that does arts, thing that blocks and thing that heals. That's about it. Focus on damage operators first, because doing more damage means you need to tank and heal less. By the way, damage first is true in almost every game out there. Quicker kills equals less effort. It's probably worth using low rarity medics and tanks, but higher rarity DPS for this reason. If a medic heals 50 times more than needed, there is zero benefit when compared to a medic that heals for exactly enough. If your DPS does 50 times the damage you need, you probably don't need a medic at all. Also, Supa is Italian, Spot is better than Gummy. More experienced players who only want the best of the best naturally don't care for low rarity, but there are 2 standout operators. The Printer, fucking obviously, what did you expect? And Ethan for his disgusting crowd control. There are higher rarity operators that can surpass Ethan, but they are not easily available, so unless you have been around for a long time, you might not have access to them. Ethan does only one thing, but he does it to perfection. His talent gives a chance to bind, his skill 2 triples the chance to bind, so he keeps enemies in place while your DPS operators murder them. I wouldn't have mentioned him before, but the model Ethan got is just so broken. He is a crowd control operator, and for his new talent they gave him 20% slow to all enemies in range. For his talent upgrade he got 2 upgrades instead of 1. It increases his bind chance to 27% and it increases his bind duration to 3.5 seconds. The extra 0.5 seconds might sound small, but the effect is gigantic. With a 3.5 seconds duration, bound enemies will be hit by Ethan before the bind runs out. With his own skill bind chance of 81%, it's possible to just completely stop enemies from moving for 25 seconds or longer. Look at this crap, it's just stupid. Why would you not want that? Those are the only ones I'd recommend if you're just trying to clear the game. Other 4 stars are good too, but the gap between 4 stars and 6 stars is so massive. If you just want the best, building the 5 worst 6 stars in the game will give you far more than the 5 best 4 stars. It's worth pointing out that 1 maxed 6 star costs as much as 3 maxed 4 stars, but since I only play with 4 stars, resources aren't a real thing to me. I have no sense of how long those materials take to farm, nor do I wish to know. And finally, the part I'm actually qualified to speak about. Best 4 stars for 4 star purposes. At first I wasn't sure how to approach this. Do I talk about the best 4 stars for general normal players, or best 4 stars for tryhard low operator runs that I do? Both seemed like things I couldn't make an interesting video out of. For tryharding, it's just the operators you see me use regularly, Deep Cover, Joy and Friends. For more casual 4 starring, it's exactly the same thing but Myrtle instead of Deep Cover. So I had to dig deeper, looking for something we've long forgotten. Why do we play Arknights? So we have something to do with our hands on the broken cum-stained bus we take to work? No, that was porn. What was it then? Oh yeah, I remember. It was fun. We play because it's fun. So let's talk about what 4 stars are fun for me, and I think you should do them simply because they're fun. I'll talk purely from my own experience, so we'll focus on how the operators feel at E2 max. I like operators who actually do useful things, so there is a correlation between the strong 4 stars and the fun ones for me. Since it's just my subjective preference, the numbers in this list are meaningless. Actually, you know what, fuck the numbers. Indigo, she's eaten but for single target. Is there one particular enemy whose day you want to fuck? Indigo is here to bind it forever and nuke it to oblivion. Mystic casters are considered a weak archetype. I think that's mostly because the 5-star ones have weird ass kits. Indigo has a great kit that works well with the Mystic caster trait, high on skill damage and a short SP cycle. Click is no slouch by drone caster standards, but she is roughly on par with Indigo. and who is better just depends on the map needs. Click has more off-skill DPS and a longer skill duration, but a slower SP cycle. Indigo has higher on-skill damage, but a shorter skill duration. Even though 5-star Mystic casters can do more damage than her, I think she is outright better because her crowd control and SP cycle are so reliable. She has a good combo with Ethan. If there are more than 3 enemies, Ethan S2+, Indigo S2 is a strong AoE option. But if there are 1 or 2 enemies, you shouldn't use their skills together. Ethan binds so much that Indigo will max out on charges and start losing DPS. Fun Indigo Swash Mystic caster fact. The game says they can store 3 shots by default and 4 shots with Moto. This is true from a certain point of view, but also very misleading. When Mystic casters attack, they generate a new shot. So the first time Indigo attacks an enemy, she will hit them 5 times for 6600 damage. On top of that, her S2 is an attack reset, so if you use it right after she fires her charges, she will instantly generate and fire a 6th shot, 7900 damage delivered instantly. Finally, she is very hot. Next up, Quartz. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. She is also hot though. Beanstalk. I fucking love her stupid crap. It can do so much goofy shit and exploit so many mechanics. Goes for all tacticians, but their summons don't disappear when you press retreat. This is much more useful than it sounds. A bunch of enemies have instantly retreat operator skill that can kill anything, except the tactician summons, it just makes them regenerate instead. This is somewhat unusual these days, but Beanstalk actually has an advantage over higher rarity tacticians. The crab regenerates the fastest out of all the summons, and with her skill 1 instantly regenerating, she essentially becomes a gravel that generates DP. Need to stop some enemy with entirely too much attack? Just crap. Need to periodically tank a one-shot? Crap. Need to cheese tile walk skills? Crap. She's so versatile I barely think of her as a vanguard. More of a specialist that happens to generate DP. Ambrio, the only real sniper in the game. Targeting lower defense with global range makes her a bit of a hit or miss. If there is something with low def you want her to kill, she is perfect. But there are maps with zero defense targets that aren't even enemies. The entire archetype is a bit weird if you think about it. They have great attack so they don't struggle against defense, but they refuse to target it. In any case, she is excellent at picking off annoying support units from the enemy or taking care of that one random dog leak. About 90% of the reason she is here is that I like the sound of her gun. I've seen people calling my takes reasonable and based. I will not stand for this any longer. Perfumer, best medic in the game. Everybody should build Perfumer. More healing, better range, SP. Who needs that crap? Do those allegedly better medics have global healing? Yeah, I thought not. Well, AA Outer does with her S3. Oh, shut up, like you're gonna use anything other than AA S1. Meanwhile, Perfumer global healing isn't dependent on her skill. It's 7% of her attack, so any attack increases her global heal. Oh, look, a 250% attack buff. Very nice. Half the time you don't even need to deploy her properly to keep your operators alive. Just throw her in some corner and she'll do the job just fine. Healing is 26 health per second without her skill, 91 health per second during skill 2, and 41 during skill 1. On top of that, her heal applies to all allied targets, so she can heal zombies and summons too. Probably one of the most used 4 stars apart from Jaya and DC. She's just so flexible. For AFK, you can deploy her and forget about medics. For challenge runs, she can keep things alive on the other end of the map that would require a medic otherwise. Great op all around. Utage. You want Suitor's DPS but don't have her. If you have 4 stars maxed, I'm willing to trade accounts. Anything to get rid of the Suitor stain. Alright, Utage. Single highest DPS 4 star in the game. Under the right circumstances, she can match Suitor in single target DPS. Those right circumstances are very easy to achieve. You just need the target to have 0 rest, not kill Utage despite her low health, but damage her just enough to keep her at about 30% health, even though that massively increases her healing and she gains shelter. Simple enough, right? Utage is a weird ass hybrid between a Musha and whatever disgusting travesty modern faster deploys are. She is particularly good at deleting that one annoying elite and then retreating. Unlike Jaya, she has a normal redeploy time, so she's only top tier, not super broken. For the Musha parts, she still has self-sustain, and sometimes it's worth leaving her out just to kill or style one annoying enemy. Her skill 1 gets used on occasion for leaking certain enemies through, or some super co-op style cycle. Back in the olden days, Vanguards used to be for generating DP and holding the line until you could deploy better units. They were DPS operators in and of themselves. And then you have Vigna with her 2200 attack being able to 1v1 harpoons like the hidden guards she is. The OG DPS Vanguard. I just love the Charger archetype in general. Other Vanguards hide in the bush, cowering and try to print out DP foe or some big strong guard to save them. Chargers in the meantime rip out the enemy's guts and turn it into DP for you like some Metal Gear protagonist. Now that's a literal Vanguard. I rarely need DP so I don't get to use her much, but I love it when I get the chance. Watching the little midget slaughter elites is so fun. It's extremely common in games for defensive tools to be inefficient and weak, so the optimal strategy is often to just maximize DPS. Now that makes some sense from a game design perspective. If defense is too good, you can often completely shut down the enemy and turn fight into a joke. A joke that stops being funny very quickly when you realize how long it takes to kill anything. But defense is great fun when it's balanced correctly. Ideally, you want it to be a specific tool to deal with certain threats, but not universally great against everything. In 4 stars only, defenders hit that spot perfectly. Both Quora and Bubble are excellent and have slight differences. Quora has self-healing and can block 4 on Q2. Bubble has more health, taunt and reduces enemy attack. It's just so fun to play with Protector defenders. You can have enemies that two-shot all of your operators that can't even scratch them, but it's not broken because you have arts damage or enemies with extremely high attack to threaten them. It's a perfect specific tool you use versus certain enemies. Pinecone. The E2 art is such a banger, none of her skins can even compare. Pinecone is outright my favorite operator in the game. Cute tanky sniper with a high damage unique skill. Does she even have any downsides? Well, her talent is garbage and her skill too is worse, but her one good skill more than makes up for it. She is widely considered to be better than Executor and that other shotgun sniper whose name you don't remember. The impressive thing is that she is better than Executor despite having less damage than him. Her skill 1 is just one empowered shot with a low SP cost, but the low SP cost combined with the 3 charges and the ability to weave normal attacks in between shots give you a lot of freedom on how to use this simple ability. You can perfectly tailor its use to maximize her actual damage and avoid skill downtime and overkill from hurting her DPS. Manual activation and multi-charge skills are extremely strong for this reason, and despite having higher damage, Executor tends to lose out to Pinecone because his high SP costs make it difficult to sync his skills to the enemy waves. There's one thing I really hate about Cutter. Do you have the slightest idea how many times somebody has asked me if they should mastery 3 Cutter S1 or Cutter S2? Both, fucking obviously, what kind of simp are you? Most operators have one good skill, and you kinda forget the other ones exist. What's even the point of having 2 skills if one is going to be 80% attack and the other will be 200% attack, attack 3 targets at once, do 200% of attack each attack and then install the game? Cutter is one of those rare operators that have 2 perfectly functional skills that do completely different things, and which one you use is entirely circumstantial. Cutter S1 is an 11 SP nuke that does about 10,000 damage. That's just ridiculous for a 4 star, and that 11 SP is nothing because Cutter is from the Dark Ages when AG had no clue what was good or not, and gave her one of the most broken talents in the game. When dealing damage, she has a 36% chance to gain 1 SP. Emphasis on the when dealing damage bit. Cutter is a dual strike, meaning that she does damage twice with every normal attack. That's effectively a 60% chance to gain 1 SP every hit, and she can even gain 2 extra SP from 1 hit. It's possible for Cutter to charge her S1 back up in just 4 attacks. Her skill 2 is a 12 SP AoE nuke that does around 3000 damage. Great range that can sometimes let her cover 2 lanes. On top of that, it does double damage to air units. That one-shots almost every air enemy in the game. I've used her for so long and never gotten tired of her despite the RNG. It's fun to play around with it because you get to make different choices based on RNG rolls. Sometimes you use the skill, sometimes you save it. If you don't get enough SP in time, you can do something to compensate and then gain back value from using the skill at a different point. Shiryuki is my favorite 4 star from the original batch. A great long range AoE caster with a 25 SP cycle. Oh wait, she's a sniper, so that's why she does physical damage. Oh, never knew. On skill she does 210% of her attack as arts damage over a 3-second duration and slows. I've enjoyed using her quite a bit, and it made me think it's a shame we got so few decent AoE snipers. They're an extremely fun archetype. You can use them in times that few other operators can make use of to attack enemies from light years away, while remaining perfectly safe themselves. I haven't gotten as much use out of her in recent years because we got a bunch of good casters, Click, Indigo Pudding, that have better damage in CC, so her only advantage became the range and her hit count. She's just barely below the current 4 power level though. She can pop up anywhere if I need her hit count or long range. Caper, the Mexican troglodyte. I did an entire video talking about Caper already, so I won't go into as much depth here. In short, her EN voice is great, the archetype is unique but doesn't power creep, and she does a lot of damage. Also, she sways. Just fucking build Ethan already. Ethan Bind used to be a meme back when he was fairly strong for low rarity, but his model just broke him. I don't have the footage anymore, but back when I was grinding 9-up H204, Ethan bound one of the Clown Slayer soft skills so many times in a row that the second Clown Slayer came over and they killed me together. If the biggest problem I remember from a crowd control operator is that they crowd controlled all over the place, they're probably pretty good. Also, his Q2 is just stupid. Just look at this shit, he doesn't even need words. His Q1 is great at choosing hit count based stuff, but that works even at T0. Mostly he's used for his ridiculously strongest tool, and if you combine him with another crowd control operators, your enemies won't ever move again. Well, that was it for my top 10 list, reviewing 6 stars whose skill I didn't read next time. Wait, wasn't that more than 10? Ah well, if Ian can't read, they probably can't count.